I'm Yves. This video is the first one in the series on playing with drones. In this series on playing with drones, we're going to explore a lot of different avenues like tonal, microtonal, playing in different type of rhythm, exponential rhythm, elastic rhythms, and so on. I mean, there's just a lot of experimentation that can be done playing with drones. So why is it so important, or at least, I mean, why do I feel it's so important to play with drones? Is because it's a color. The whole thing with music, from my experience, is like I always wanted to be inside the music. I always felt like I was playing outside of it. I was playing on top of it. I was playing beside it. And I always wanted to go deeper and deeper into the music. The way that I perceive it, it's like the music being an ocean, a pool, a bowl of water. And the sound that are being produced around me, or the sounds I produce, it's kind of like having a dropper and putting a drop of ink and watching the pattern of the ink mix with that water. And depending how you put the drop, the timing of the drop, the thickness, the depth, and so on, you see all the effect of the water. And it feels like the air and so on is just another liquid with just a different density, where we are just playing with this liquid and changing values. So for me, playing with the drones, it's how I can concentrate on very simple colors, the colors of those drops, so I can really hear the effect and feel the effect. So one of the goals with it too is to slow everything down, because the drones is not going anywhere. You're not going anywhere. Nothing is going anywhere. And by slowing everything more and more down, you start to hear all the changes. The more you slow things down, the more you hear the minute changes. The more you're aware of the minute changes, the more things slow down. So it becomes a meditation exercise. You quiet your mind. The mind basically stops. And every time the status quo or the equilibrium changes, you feel it, you perceive it, you sense it. So you get really aware of that. All those techniques then get applied to playing with other musicians, where they put their drops, you're doing your mix. You don't always have to play. So same thing, sometimes you observe, can you bring something? Can you bring another color? Can you put one more drop in? So this exchange is everybody is swimming at the same time and changing of feeling, of experience at the same time, because we're all in that liquid together and everything affects the liquid that we're all swimming in it. What you're trying to achieve is what you're hearing becomes as a surprise to you. Instead of always doing the action of focusing on what you're trying to push forward, it's almost like you step back, the sound comes out, and then you hear it as a surprise, and then you experience it, and you hear the changes. So you're concentrating way more on the listening part of it than on trying to keep pushing sounds, ideas, and being too much within yourself. Because again, the idea is to experience that changing liquid and all those color drops coming through it. A way to practice it or to play with it, at first is to start with a very simple tone. So in here I'm going to use a drone from an Indian app called iTablaPro. And any kind of drones do work, any kind of pattern staying in the same tonality. It can be with synthesizer, electronic instrument. I'm starting here with iTablaPro. But in other video, we're going to explore different type of drones, different type of sound background, of sound texture that we play on, against, and with. With iTablaPro here, we got the tempura and the tabla. And I have it in F, so it puts me in D minor on the sax. And I'm going to start at first here to play some very simple tones, some roots, some third, fifths, and experience the sound. When I blow through the horn, the idea too is that meditation effect is I think of the sound coming from the earth, coming through my feet, my legs, coming through me, going through the horn, going out the bell, and then you project toward the back goes back to the earth, comes to you, and it's kind of like an energy that just go around, like a wheel of energy. And more you feel yourself just settle down as you do those sounds. So let's try with some drones. So here I was playing just a root, a minor third, a fifth, and then a root an octave above. You can also sing along, and I really recommend that you sing all the pitches. The next exercise you can do is playing the 12 different tones. So the 12 tones of the scales. Or to start more simple at first, you could start with the first 7 notes. And the idea in here, we're gonna play like a D minor, and how each pitch has a color. So for example, D, you're playing the root. Then you're gonna go to E, and you can think of it as a second or the ninth. Then you got F, the third. Then you got G is the fourth, and so on. And once you do that, you can start to hear where each tone wants to go. So you can start to play, for example, the ninth, and does the ninth want to go to the root or wants to go to the third? It can go either way. For example, the fifth really strongly wants to come back to the root. So each tones now start to feel the color, the sense of that note, and where does that note wants to go. So let's try with a few of those notes. So here I just played each one of the main scale tone. The next one you can start to do is to play, like we talked earlier, the 12 tones. So, for example, if we in D, the E flat, that's a flat 9. Then we go to the E, the second of the nines. Then we go to the F, which is a minor third. Then you got the F sharp, which is a major third. So you can have the minor and the major go against it, and so on. So the function of each one of those tones and where do they want to pull, and especially you start to understand I don't like the word dissonance, but what is the vibration against the main root, I mean, against the drone, against the color that you're in. So it's like painting. You're putting some blue and some yellow. Is it becoming green? So it's all different color in the spectrum. And each one of those colors, how does it mix? So sometimes some color have a funny relationship next to each other, but in the right context, they work well. Or next to another color, they resolve. So the whole thing is, where does that color leads to, or where does that color brings you emotionally compared to that main flow, that main liquid that you're in. So here I played some flat 9, I played the major third and the minor third, I played the tritone, the diminished fifths, and then so you could hear the different sound of those. And even, I mean, if they're supposedly dissonant intervals, as you tune them more and more, dissonance for me just completely disappears. And the concept of dissonance is just taste, colors. Like in food, something can taste sweet, can taste bitter. Is one better than the other? They're just all different. It's like emotion, difference. So each one is a different place to explore. And we have a tendency, like in the diet, to eat too much sugar or sweets or very easy, simple taste. And the idea is, as we explore some of those different tastes, it expands our palate, and they all become just as great. And the dissonance really disappear. I remember when I was exposed to that from a concert of Anthony Braxton that I saw in Geneva years ago. And after a while in the concert, suppose they were playing dissonant music, but nothing sounded dissonant anymore. It was just like a whole spectral of color, kind of like you're listening to rain fall on the water. Each pitch has a sound, and it just becomes a blend of all those little notes that makes a much bigger texture. And it's like a painter that suddenly knows how to mix all the color, has all those colors available to himself to make those emotional landscape that just makes you perceive and feel to a greater depth, because it's so much richer. And that's where I try to go with the drones. It's the first place to try to explore each of the notes of your instrument, like on the sax, and to take the time, because you're not going anywhere. Nothing's going anywhere. You could stay for an hour on one note, and then we'll go in the other videos with that, into shaping the note. The whole concept of each note has an infinite possibility of color within that note, and of emotion you can bring within that tone. So then we're just not limited to the 12 pitch, to the microtonal, but now to the tessiture, the timbre, and all the extra dimension of that sound that we can bring and mix into that liquid. So I hope that this video brought you a little bit of insight into the concept of drones and the concept of sound exploring, instead of playing in a manner which is much more patterned, much more goal-oriented, playing with scales, inside, outside, all the different jazz and rock and all, even classicals, how we're much more focused on the notes, the relationship, the phrase, what we're trying to do, instead of exploring the sound. And the sound is the first place that got me interested in music, because music being sound, everything else matters a lot less to me. So this is a celebration of sound through the use of drones. All right, thank you. Bye.